When it comes to conventional feeder fishing, there are many ways to attach your hook length to your setup. So let's talk about what I actually use now in a little bit more detail. Now, in my hand here, I've got a standard free running conventional feeder setup with a knot, with my shock leader, and then my boom, which actually protrudes down from the feeder, protects everything, especially when that feeder hits the surface. And of course, the standard way of connecting your hook length to your boom, a lot of people might do a loop-to-loop connection. And of course, over time, we've all tried different ways of connecting the hook length to make it efficient and quick, but also anti-tangle. Now, what I've been using for the last year is simply incredible. It's something I caught with. I'm a big thinking angler. I always want to get the best out of my setup. And especially what we're talking about here, we're talking about a setup where you're targeting loads of bites. You know, you might be on a venue getting a fisher chuck, little roach, skimmers, hybrids. You want that setup to be as efficient as possible, and that alone is going to put you more fish in the net. Now, what I actually use rather than a loop to loop is a little connection, which is a staple. So I've literally got a staple. I've straightened the staple out. I've then bent over each end and I've slid on a little bit of silicone tubing. Now, it sounds quite complex, but let me tell you, it's very, very simple. And the reason why I've started using it is so light. There is no other way of connecting this kind of system. You can buy all kinds of quick change beads and swivels in the shop, but they're quite heavy. What this is ultra small and very, very light. Therefore, when you're targeting silvers, the less resistance you've got between your feeder or your connection point, the knot, let's say, or a bead, to your hook, the less resistance there is in that area, the more your bites will be magnified and the more bites you're going to get. But also, you do not get tangles with this setup. And all it's a simple case of is if I want to change hook lengths instantly, it takes a split second to do it. Hook length on, a fresh hook length, slide it on, job done. Within a second, everything is changed. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about my new way of connection. And let me tell you, when you've tried it, I'm sure you'll agree that there's no other way of doing it that's more efficient than this. It is simply the best way, completely anti-tangle. So in my hand here is my boom, which you can imagine is attached to the feeder. And this is, at this point here, is where most people would tie a loop to do a loop-to-loop connection. All I've simply got is a staple, and I've closed up the legs of the staple. So I've got two hooking points, one for the boom and one for the hook length. And onto the boom itself, I threaded on some 0.3 silicone tubing. I've connected the staple itself to the boom using a 5-turn half blood knot. Nice and tight, nice and neat. I've trimmed it down as well. And in my hand here is my hook length. So all it's a case of when you want to change hook lengths is your hook length onto the staple, slide the silicone down, and everything is protected and completely anti-tangle. And then when I want to change my hook length, slide the silicone up, take the hook length off like so, put a fresh hook length on like so, slide the silicone down, and we're back out fishing within seconds. So give it a go.